The real juice of life is really, how do you feel when you're by yourself? Are you depressed? Are you stressed out? Do you have anxiety? Are you anxious? Or do you feel connected? Do you remember what you really are and who you really are? And I think it's that divine remembrance that we're here to bestow upon humanity.
Drew is an author, transformation coach, and founder of Organifi. Drew has helped thousands of people revitalize their health, ignite their vision, and shift the course of their life forever. After reaching a dead end in his own health, Drew discovered the chasm of difference between going through the motions and living with radical intention. He now helps people tap into the big you to create the change they never thought possible. In this episode, we talk about Drew's journey from the credit industry to making nutrition easily accessible with the goal to impact 1 billion lives.
You're listening to Going Conscious, the podcast where we discover new ways to live a more conscious life of fulfillment and freedom. Each week, I speak with entrepreneurs, academics, and changemakers who have made big transformations, left unfulfilling lives behind, and found meaning in this new world where purpose drives success. Let's get inspired to live our unique journeys to the fullest. Let's explore the impact we want to make and deepen our understanding of ourselves, each other, and this beautiful world around us. Live your freedom. I'm your host, Nikki Trott.
In this episode, we talk about how Drew switched his diet and activated his body, how spiritual practice aligns your soul, the importance of resting in the now, affirmations and pattern interrupts, why energy is the secret, why business is spirituality, how to transform every day, how to remember your own brilliance, incredible mentors and Wayne Dyer, why the juice of your life is how you are when you're by yourself, and how the more you love yourself, the more the world shifts. Now, let's go to our conversation. Drew, hello and welcome to Going Conscious.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to speak with you and absolutely loving what you're doing for the world. And I want to ask you firstly, was purpose always driving your work, or was that something that you had to shift towards at some point?
Yeah, so flashback over a decade ago, I was running a credit and debt settlement company, and it was really, if you look at spiral dynamics, I was very much in the orange, competition, creating money, survival, more root chakra base in those lower meridians. And then I sat with a mentor for 5 years, and he just coached me on giving back to the world and really supporting people in a unique way. And as soon as I made the shift, I changed my environment of living in Tampa, Florida, and working 16 hours a day only to go out and binge drink on the weekends, just because my soul was longing for something that was more impassioned. So I decided to move to San Diego, change my environment up. And at the same time, I switched my diet. I started eating healthier, drinking copious amounts of green juice, lost 40 pounds in the process, and realized that I really like helping people with their health. So I did that, and I started a YouTube channel. And in the beginning, I was getting like 12 views per video. Nobody was watching it, but over time, we had thousands of people send in before and after photos of their own transformations. And it really lit my soul on fire to help more and more people.
That's incredible. That sounds like a really big change that you made. Did you make it quickly, or was it something that took a long time? And what was the hardest part?
I made it quickly just because, as a quick start, entrepreneur, somebody who makes decisions, I decide fast. And then I continue to follow it one step at a time. I rely on God or source or spirit, whatever you want to call it, to operate through me, to give me the courage, because if it was up to Drew and the personality of him to get things done, there'd be a lot of things that I would just sit on. So I'm always pushed out through, divine will or spirit to go after my dreams and my goals. And I think that's the big differentiating factor with humanity today. I think sometimes we can just sit on the couch for weeks on end, waiting to do something. And I think getting the courage to go out and do it is the biggest step. And then you don't know how it's going to line up, but over time, things get better and better, and it just works out.
Amazing. How did you find that courage, Drew? Because I think when we start to realize that we want to make changes in our lives and we might not be living aligned with source or purpose, it's then really difficult to see how we can make those changes that we have to change our environment, like you said, to live differently and to pursue something where we don't know where it's leading us.
Yeah, for me, it was activating my body first. So the miracle multidimensional suit that we host during this transitory time on planet Earth, I was really much focused on getting high vibing foods to change my psychology, because we know that the microbiota now can shift the way you view the world. You know, your reticular activation system that's in your brain and perceives the world as hostile or friendly. So I changed my biology. I activated my body. And then I, awakened my mind every single day. I was reading for 30 minutes to an hour. I was communicating with loved ones. I was pouring more love into my life through connection. So that's the mindset piece. And then I was aligning my soul. So I was doing a spiritual practice every morning in my morning ritual, whether it was playing the guitar or singing worship music or connecting to my soul through writing or journaling or dream time work, going into my dreams and opening up portals of different plant medicine and experiencing death, 1,000 times, or being in different galaxies and dimensions and talking to different luminous beings and asking them how their planet evolved 300 million years ago and beyond. So it was taking all that information and then applying it to my own life. But it first started with the body, then went to the mind. And meanwhile, always working on the soul, because I think that's the big thing that's missing in a lot of conscious entrepreneurship.
Wow, amazing. I love how you talk about activating the body first. That's something that really resonates with me as well. In my journey, I also was working hard, long hours, drinking every weekend. And then when I first decided I needed to integrate my body into my sense of being and became vegan at the same time, although that was this time that I also started exploring meditation deeply and reading a lot of spiritual books. So I can't really separate them, but that's what then led me to be able to understand my own purpose and connect with my own awakening spiritually as well. So I love that you talk about that as being your kind of first step into that journey. Can you tell us a bit more about aligning with your soul and how you integrate that?
Yeah. So I don't know. Have you studied like the Merkaba or the Buddhic field, or do you think your avatar, whoever's listening to this, has gone down that rabbit hole yet, or do you think they're kind of just starting out?
Maybe more just starting out.
Okay.
Or a mix.
Yeah, no, perfect. I think the easiest way and the most simple process for this would simply be to rest into the eternal now. And that's hard for a lot of people because we're living in the future as an entrepreneur. What can I create? What can I do? Who can I impact in the future? And that pulls you out of the present eternal now. The present moment's different than the eternal now, and the past is gone. So as soon as we enter the 0 point field, which is the eternal now, then we start to get access to more information. So aligning your soul for me looks like being in the present moment, like Eckhart Tolle talks about, right? The Power of Now, a really basic book, but he's giving you all the tools, like just be here. And I think one of the biggest ways we can do that is through the biological process of breathing, or pranayama, or chi, working with your chi, doing tai chi or qigong, and just being here, being safe. A lot of people have so much trauma, especially from this whole pandemic thing, that they're constantly throwing the different bodies that they have, be it your physical body, your etheric body, your auric body, your energetic, your magnetic body. The different bodies that we have are all over the place. So they're not aligned. So for me, it looks like aligning all my bodies and moving through time and space whole, complete, in the eternal now, not lacking anything, but sustained on the infinite awareness that is observing all. And for me to do that, it's very much a daily practice of, number one, sun gazing. I'm a big fan of. So going out and looking into the sun and allowing the different rays, that luminous light, to wash away my field, my etheric field and my energy field, while planting my feet on earth, which hooks up to the voltage body. So now I'm getting a charge through my whole entire energy field by connecting in nature this way. And that's aligning my soul. So it's taking the present moment. It's not being on your cell phone, swiping left, swiping right when you first wake up in the morning. It's actually the opposite of that. It's slowing yourself down. And I think the more we slow down, the more we open up Pandora's box to a whole world of opportunity. Senses that are outside the five mundane, TikTok, ordinary senses that we're all hung up on. We're visual creatures, yes. So we pursue more visual stimulation because it's lighting up dopamine and the different neurochemicals in our brain. But what's beyond that, right? What's beyond the senses that's actually witnessing you? And who are you beyond that? So I think to be conscious, we have to realize that the alignment of one's soul is of the highest priority. And it takes a daily effort. It takes due diligence in every single moment to say, hey, am I running the show here, or is my ego in the front seat? And who is the I? Like Muji talks about in some of these avatars that are on the planet now. It's really being in that state more often. So if music lights you up, great. If it's hanging out with your kids, because kids have that childlike innocence and your soul gets lit up when you're around that energy, like do more of that. So my philosophy is do more of whatever brings you joy. So I'm a big fan of just enjoying reality in its fullest present eternal now moment. And the more I do that, the more I'm actually increasing my wealth frequency or the creation frequency. So as an entrepreneur, my sole job is literally to be the energetic chiropractor of my business. We have 100 employees now, and it's to go from one employee to the next and just help them remember who they are. It's not about adding anything to them. They're already perfect. They're already whole. They're already complete. But it's about showing up and demonstrating in such a way to where they're like, whoa, okay, I remember who I am now. And I remember that I don't have to be overwhelmed. I don't have to know what's coming next. All I have to do is rest in the eternal now and let source take care of itself, which is operating through me, in me, in every cell of my being.
Wow, that's incredible, Drew. And I love how you talk about always being in the sense with no lack and how you stay in the present fully abundant. And as an entrepreneur with goals, and with places that we're driving to in the future as well, what I try to do is to know where I'm going from a place of intuition and then to feel into the energy of that already now. So being present in reality, but also present in where I'm taking things. And I'm just wondering how you balance that with a successful business with 100 employees and then also being in the now and doing these practices you've described.
Well, I think you answered it, and you said it so beautifully, Nikki. It is really feeling it, right? Because the feeling is the secret. The feeling is the energy. You're a human tuning fork. If we look at matter as music and not the mortal matter, then we can start to see that everything is just frequency. So for me, it's how am I feeling in every moment? Am I feeling awake? Am I feeling alive? Am I feeling aligned? And if that's the case, then I'm on the right path. And if I'm not, then what is it? Taking deeper inquiry, like Katie Byron's work. What's causing me to feel this way? And is it real? Is it true? And if it's not, then just shifting the narrative so that I go into a more feeling place of joy, abundance, gratitude, love. And it's also unconsciously impressing and imprinting upon the unconscious mind. So I'm a big fan of affirmations. I'm a big fan of randomly pattern interrupting myself with different sticky notes that are in my house or alerts on my cell phone. Now they have different apps that can pop up for you. But ultimately, they're all reminding you of where you came from and where you're headed. And I think the more we access that, the more powerful we become as human beings too.
Amazing. So how has spirituality helped you succeed more in your business then?
Well, because I think every problem that you have in business isn't a problem that's about business. It's a spiritual problem. So it's remembering the truth that the law of supply and demand, that we live in this infinite place where you're in this never ending, unceasing abundance, and it's abounding in every way, in all ways, always. So the more I realize that, metaphysically, I'm actually changing the environment, because the fourth plane of existence is the mental realm, as the ancient Kabbalion talks about. And the more I can operate from the mental realm, bringing energy, bringing thoughts down into the physical, then the more harmony I can have now. But if I'm stuck in the 3D, TikTok, mundane society, swipe left, swipe right, and I'm worried about what's coming tomorrow, and I'm worried about the relationship that I'm in, I'm worried about the taxes or whatever bills I have to pay, then I'm outside of the fourth dimension. I'm living in the 3D, and the 3D will lie to you. The 3D is not real. The 3D is an illusion. Like the ancient Mayans said, the Maya is an illusion. And it's very real because we're visual-based creatures and we hear things and we see things. But beyond the five senses, what's next? So to maintain that spiritual cord and have that be the through line in your life, in the narrative, in the book or the movie that you're creating called You, your Nikki Trott identity, it's a beautiful movie, and if you can look back chasing the dots, like Steve Jobs said, and also look forward because you're in the eternal now present moment coming from the fourth dimension or the mental realm, well, then you have much greater navigational ability. Now you're not just a sea adrift in the ocean. You're actually watching the ship from above as the observer and the infinite awareness that's in every cell of your being. but it takes aligning spiritually every single day and making that your work. So my work isn't to run an organization and hit the Inc. 500 4 years in a row or have the best place to work 3 years in a row. Those are all just material accolades. So that's not the chase, right? That's not what lights me up, because if I get lit up on that, well, then I'm going to get down on the taxes that are due or the bills that I have to pay or the lawsuit or whatever else it is. It's the material world. So we have to be lit up beyond it. And I think that's where spirit, source, God comes into play, and making that your daily practice as a conscious entrepreneur. I think when we balance the left and right, the female and masculine divine beings that we are, then we'll start to see a whole open opportunity of different markets that haven't even been opened yet, or maybe the ancients had access to, but we've forgotten because we've been asleep.
If you enjoy Going Conscious, please subscribe for a new episode every Wednesday. If you think your friends and networks would benefit from listening, please share this podcast of fulfillment and freedom with them. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. It's great to read what you think, and your support makes a big difference. Together, let's grow our courage and tools to transform and live the lives we really want to. As well as creating Going Conscious, I work as a transformation coach and conscious brand consultant. I'm on a mission to help holistically maximize conscious entrepreneurs to drive positive changes for themselves, others, and the planet. I can help you to transition and level up personally, and I can help your brand grow and make a bigger impact. To connect with me and find out more about how we can work together, find me on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website, nikkitrott.com. Please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and let's talk about your path of growth and development.
So what has business contributed to your spirituality then? How have you learned more to deepen your spirituality through your business experiences?
Oh, great question. I think because your business is spirituality. And if it's not tied to it, then you're just living in the 3D. At least that's my opinion. So everything I do has a spiritual backbone. And spirituality's, it's a label that we give to something that is a quest to seek source or whatever the definition of spirituality is. But I think it's beyond labels. I think it's the divine remembering of who we really are. And then we show up in the world creating a service, a product, or something else that helps people remember. So for me, it's helping somebody remember how good they can feel. Because pain, if you've ever been in pain and you've tried to meditate for 30 minutes, or you've ever been in pain and you've tried to sing a song and your neck's out of control, you're hurting, or you've ever been in pain in your hand, you have arthritis in your hand and you're trying to play the guitar, it's a lot harder. So for me, I like to help people's bodies feel better than they've ever felt through the nutrition that we're actually giving them, because we know that 98% of disease is an inflammatory response in the body. So not only is it you are what you eat, but you are what you absorb. There's a lot of petrochemicals, herbicides, fungicides, glyphosate in our environment today. So to be the opposite of that, to be the purveyor of all things health, to be on the front lines of helping people fuel their body, their microbiota, their mitochondria with living food is one of the greatest, most divine works I could ever do in a spiritual place in the eternal now. So when I show up with that, knowing that I'm serving people liquid light, knowing that, the more we pray or we meditate over the food that we're giving out to the world, the more people are radically having healings. And they don't know why, is it the green juice? I can't claim that in the 3D, but I can also claim that when you make a decision to treat your body, the multidimensional vehicle that it is, that's already perfect, whole, and complete, the body heals the body, then you're ultimately changing the timeline that you exist on to have a more favorable condition in the moment. So that's how I would say we spiritualize what we get to do every day, and we're blessed to do it.
And when you talk about helping people to transform their ability to heal, how do you see transformation? Because I've seen you referred to as a transformation specialist, and I really wanted to understand what that really means to you.
Yeah, I think we're constantly transforming, right? So moving through form. So what's the formation that we're moving through? And moment by moment is the formation that I'm taking on, the metamorphosis, like the butterfly, breaking out of the capsule that it was once in, reconstituting every single living element in its being to grow wings and actually take flight. to fly through a field and see flowers differently because the caterpillar was once on the ground or the stem that it was crawling on. Now it's actually flying. Like, I believe as human beings, we have that ability, maybe not to grow wings in this moment currently, but to grow wings of a new perception, to grow wings of a new perspective. And I think moment by moment, choosing to transform into the highest ideal that you could conjure up. I mean, to me, that's a life worth living, right? Because I would say, and Dispenza, I believe, said this, that by the time we're 39, 98% of what we do is actually a program that we're just running on. So to truly transform and be a change agent in every moment, you have to realize that transformation is just a byproduct of who you are. You're constantly doing it. And when you are no longer triggered by what triggered you in the past, that's a transformation. It's an emotional one, right? When you shift a belief that you once had that was holding you small, like that's a transformation. So every single day, seek out new ways to grow and transform. And I think you can be your own transformation specialist. I'm no guru. I'm not here to be your transformation specialist or your personal coach. I'm just a guide on the side helping you be the guru of your own life. And I think I've had many guides, I've had many mentors, and I've been blessed to transform over and over and over again. And a lot of it looks like dirty, nasty shadow work. But on the other side of it, it's been this pristine place of mental calmness and alertness that I've never had in a profound, profound way.
I absolutely love how you say transformation is a byproduct of what you are, and it's so true. And as soon as we are able to look beyond this illusion that anything at all around us is stable and constant and secure, it really helps us to grasp so much more from life. So I love how you describe that and how everyone can be their own guru and can be the master of their own transformation.
Yeah, because anytime somebody's trying to sell you on them being the guru and this and that, it's like there's enough of that. And I think what has to happen as humanity moves forward in this conscious way is to people remember their own brilliance and whatever us guides, because you're a guide too, can do to help assist in that. I think that's what ascension is. Ascension isn't leaving your body. Ascension is coming into your heart.
Yes, yes, coming into your heart. And so, in the sense of running a business, how do you integrate heart into leadership?
Yeah, it's I think it's top down, right? So it's all across the gamut. It's how am I operating and demonstrating heart in my own life? Am I willing to have the courage to have conversations that I wouldn't have with C-level team members or directors in the company? Am I willing to hold somebody high? Am I willing to paint a picture or a vision of a higher standard for the company? And can I do that through compassion? Can I do that in my heart? Can I surrender to grace and ease and knowing that everything that's unfolding from this moment is just perfect the way that it is? And can I see people whole and complete now? And I think that's the greatest gift that the heart gives you. It's because it's the feedback mechanism with the electro current that it's sending to the field. And when we're connected to our heart, our field's 3 times bigger than it is normally or through the mind. So to try to mentally impose our ideas, which most people try to do, is a futile experiment. But to be in your heart and really have enthusiasm, which actually means to move with God, to move with spirit, inspired in the spirit of. And when I start having conversations around this and I start tapping into that type of energy, I think that changes the landscape of whatever's in front of me.
Yes. And Drew, you've mentioned your mentors, and I think I heard you say that Wayne Dyer was your mentor. Is that correct?
I mean, I've had hundreds of mentors, but I would say Wayne played a big role in my life, especially in my youth. As a teenager, I'd listen to his audiobooks and different things of that nature. Yeah, he changed my life for sure.
Yeah, I'm such a fan of his work and messages as well. And I wanted to ask you, what's the most important message that he's left you with? Is there something that stands out for you? And if there's not, then feel free to just answer whatever comes up for you.
Yeah, I think it's not really a message of vernacular or words. It's more of a message of feeling in the presence of being around him, So it was this calm serenity, this peaceful state, the melodic voice that Wayne had and his absolute assurity that he was connected to source and that regardless of what was happening in his body, even towards the end of his life when he was dealing with the whole cancer stuff, he just had this calmness to him that brought me great peace in those moments. So I can remember to have that grace and to have that serenity during those trials and those tribulations that we all encounter during this earth school that we're on.
Yes, beautiful. So at Organifi, can you tell us a little bit about the mission that you have on the world? And I know, as you've mentioned, that your company is so celebrated for being such an incredible place to work and you're changing so many people's lives. So what is the mission now of Organifi?
Yeah, so I think the mission's always been the same thing, and it's to make nutrition convenient and easy and accessible for humanity at large. And we started out, with only we wanted to put Organifi in 1,000 people's hands, and then 10,000, and we were stoked, and then it was 100,000, and then 1 million. So I think our next goal, because I think 2.5 million bottles have been sent out of just the green juice, is to impact 1 billion people's lives through the power of superfoods. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's Organifi, right? Organifi is just the brand that we're creating. It's just the business that we've created. I think it's bigger than that. I think we get to communicate more effectively with other superfood companies. We get to help Mother Earth more because she's going through her own ascension process. So it's to really wake up the rest of the world. And it doesn't look like, maybe it doesn't look like buying our physical products to 1 billion people, but it looks like inspiring 1 billion people to take radical action into their own health and to have more prayer, more meditation in their life. Because that's the juice. Green juice is a mechanism that we can take for our physical body. But the real juice of life is really, how do you feel when you're by yourself? Are you depressed? Are you stressed out? Do you have anxiety? Are you anxious? Or do you feel connected? Do you remember what you really are and who you really are? And I think it's that divine remembrance that we're here to bestow upon humanity. And what better place than to do it now on planet Earth?
Yes, I love that. The juice of life is how you feel when you're by yourself. Absolutely couldn't agree more. And hopefully 2020 has helped to encourage a little bit more of that time going inwards. And I love how you talk with such abundance about how you're working towards this vision and you're encouraging people to change their lives, whether it's by buying from you or someone else. But this knowing that you are contributing to something so much greater, and that, of course, then as you have a piece of that, you will also grow with it.
Yes. 100%.
Amazing. So, Drew, I want to ask you, what does consciousness mean to you? Because I don't ask everyone this question, but conscious is obviously a word that is just all over the place and changing in meaning and understanding. And I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what consciousness means to me is it's the outside, measurable, quantifiable aspect of what we really are outside of our flesh suit, or our meat sack, as I like to call it. So, and it's also a grid because it connects us to a sea of other luminous beings outside of this physical time and space. So consciousness connects us all. And it's a frequency. There's a very measurable frequency to our consciousness. You can look at the Schumann resonance of the earth and see that there's more light entering our atmosphere than ever before. And people are waking up more than ever before. So not only do we have a consciousness, but the planetary consciousness of Earth has her own, and the other planets. And you can feel it and you can know it. So it's about tuning into your own, adjusting it through the feeling of your heart, shifting it through the thoughts that you have about your precious body. How much do you love yourself? Are you taking great care of yourself? And I think the more we do that, the more the world shifts and the more love we can have on the planet. But it starts with us examining our own consciousness and really doing the work. And what a beautiful place to be doing it.
Yes, I love that. And I sometimes wonder whether the whole world is, and all of us, whether we really are raising in consciousness, or whether it's just that I more and more and more surround myself with and attract people who are and see all of the signs. And so I'm not sure where the reality is with that. And hearing you say how more light is entering seems like something that could be interpreted as one example of maybe some kind of proof that actually, yes, there is an overall global shift and awakening happening. And I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's the more we focus on our own transformation. I'm not concerned. Like at the end of the day, I can't be concerned with the overall growth of the consciousness of the planet. but I can be concerned about the change that Drew has made in his life. And when I focus more on that, when I feel that I am waking up, when I feel that I'm more connected, when I feel that my emotional intelligence is going up, and I feel more grace in those moments of struggle, and I'm less triggered as I go throughout the day, well, then I know for certain that the universe is shifting. And it's not the universe outside of me, it's the universe that's within me. And I think that's the big focus. So I think sometimes we can get caught up on, what's happening on this planet outside of us, and it's a trap. I think in order to have the planet ascend to where we know that it can go because we've been there before, then we need to focus on us. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because the more you focus on Nikki, the more you show up in a bigger, brighter version of what you really are. And I think that's when the transformation takes place, not only from you, but from the 1,000 people that you come in contact with, or the million, or the entire planet. What you do now speaks into eternity of the future timeline that you're actually creating. And it's all because of the inward process that you're taking in this eternal now. And it has nothing to do with what the rest of the planet's doing.
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you, Drew. That's an amazing answer. And I know you use affirmations and you talk about the power of them. Would you be able to share with us an affirmation that you're using at the moment, or something that you find particularly powerful?
Yeah, I love mantras. I love affirmations because it just really connects me, and it reminds me of what's going on. So I wrote down one this morning, and it's this. I try to write one every day. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day, and I inspire others around me to do the same, so that I may serve more people and fulfill God's calling upon my life. I now allow the timeless, formless substance that is within me and in all life to operate more fully in its innate, perfect capacity. Wholeness is oneness, and I am one with all, arriving whole and complete in this eternal now moment. Show the opportunity in me to more fully own my sovereign state now. Let the obstacles of the day melt into a state of peace and ease as I allow more grace to rule my day. And then I just told myself to breathe in and receive all of it from the highest order, your limitless, timeless self. So that's the one that I'm working on today. And I set an alert, and it just gets sent to me 2 or 3 times today. And I read through it. I breathe for like 3 minutes. And it's just a remembering and a recalling of what's really important and what's going on. So I'm not doing it. It's not my will, it's thy will, if that makes sense.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I really felt it. So we can go back and pause and rewind and listen again and again. If anyone else wants to, I certainly will when I listen back. Thank you for sharing that, Drew. It's really beautiful.
Yes.
I love how you write a new one every day, because I think also with our spiritual practices, I'm always trying to find a great balance between being consistent, which I know is very powerful, but also never doing something for the sake of doing it, or allowing repetition to remove meaning from something. So I love that you write a new affirmation every day, and then have that guide you, from a real place of presence and now.
Thank you, my friend.
I was having a conversation this morning, and I realized something that I would love to ask your thoughts on. I feel like we are told throughout our lives in our culture to help other people first before we help ourselves. But then we're told to work for ourselves first before we work for others. And I realized, I think actually we need to always be helping ourselves first and working for others first. It should be the other way around. I wonder what you think of that.
Well, I think it's all the same, right? Like when you help another human being, you're actually helping the multidimensional aspect of what you are. So I think if every soul was existing as the one soul, right, one mind, we could call it the divine mind or the infinite mind or super consciousness or the Buddhic field or the Merkaba, whatever you want to call it, right? The nameless, timeless substance that's within all is actually you. So when I give $100 to a waitress, even though my meal was $20 this morning or whatever, I'm not worried about it. There's no separation between me or her. I've literally transcended the belief. And I think when we transcend the belief and we step into knowing that we are one, then we start acting a different way. And it's a resonance that's different. And you've been around people like this. So they have an insanely high wealth frequency, or they have an insanely high connection frequency. And I think that's where we're headed. It's the recognition that when you do something for somebody else, you're actually doing it for you. And I don't think there's a separation in that. Also, when we're in doubt, we can focus out because it takes the piggy off our back. Right now, I'm not saying that not to take care of my physical body, because I'm a big advocate of that. I take a bath every day, 15 pounds of Epsom salt, and I meditate every day. I play guitar for 20 minutes every day. I work out every day for an hour, right? I'm taking care of the vessel, but also while taking care of the vessel, I know that later on when I need energy or I need my ATP or mitochondria to fire in such a way that it's going to be there. I have the reserves because I poured into myself, right? And not like a maniacal, like obsessed. Well, maybe sometimes I do get obsessed about the physical body. I think that's one of my things, one of Drew's hangups, is health, biohacking this. I mean, I have like so much biohacking equipment in my house because I do love pouring into that aspect of this body. But I would say that we can't get too hung up on it, So you are doing something for someone when you do it for you too, because you can only pour from a cup or from a saucer that's around the cup, right? The energy that you actually have. So it's a good question, my friend. It's something that I personally struggle with because I do find myself over giving at times, if there's even such a thing.
Yes, exactly. If there's even such a thing, it's a unique balance for every person to find at each moment, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I love what you said about really stepping into the belief that we are all one. And it's very different to understand it intellectually and then to really live it with our actions.
Yeah, I think what's hard for me is the rest of the life, like the business, connection, friendship, all one. But I think because of the samskara that I entered this earth plane with and being tortured as a kid from 0 to 5, tremendous torture, right? If I could tie my shoes, my dad would put cigarettes out on my head. My mom left me for weeks on end. I was left outside and it was raining and they would slide the food out from a doggy door to like feed me. Like all that samskara that's stored in my body, sometimes in a relationship, I think my work, and it always continues to be, is feeling like I'm doing too much in the relationship. And that's like one of my biggest upper limiting problems. So we have these upper limiting problems. And there's a book called The Big Leap, which I recommend all my employees have read this. And the upper limiting problem of Drew tends to be focused on the relationship aspect more. So maybe it's business for you, maybe it's your relationship, maybe it's your emotional life. But working through that is one of the greatest things we can do because it's all part of our life's work, if that makes sense. I went a little on a tangent, but I think people can get a lot out of that for sure because we all have it.
Yes.
Like I'm just like you and we're all walking each other home more or less, right?
Yes. Thank you, Drew. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing there. And as we come to the end of our time together, I would like to ask you, what does success look like to you now? And how has that changed from your days in the credit world?
Yeah. So for me, it's the moment by moment happiness that I'm able to conjure up through just being. I'm not doing anything, but it's this state of ease. It's a state of grace and serenity that is with me always. And the more I cultivate that, the more joy and happiness that unfolds. I think that's success. It's not attached to anything that's in the physical because we all know once you have it, the dopamine rush goes away after a month. I've bought all the things. I've had the cars, the Aston Martins, the Superleggera, like all this fancy stuff, like 8,000 square foot houses, like this and that. And at the end of the day, like Jim Carrey says, I think he says something, he's like, I want everybody to be rich and to experience what it's like so that they can know that that's not the purpose of life. And that really struck me because you get to that point and none of that really matters. What really matters is the relationships. It's the giving. It's how many people can I help? What impact can I make? And I think that's success.
Yes. Thank you. I love that. Drew, is there a key takeaway or message that you would like to share from our conversation as we bring it to a close?
No, I mean, I just love what you're doing, Nikki. And that's why, I'm on the podcast with you. I think people are going to wake up big time from this. And I know you're just getting started, but we can definitely speak prophetic words over the next year if you'd be down for that.
I would love to. Thank you so much for your support, Drew. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
And where can our listeners find you and your work online?
So I think it's Organifi.com. You can go there. If you want to provide for them a code in the details below, you can totally do that.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, they can hit me up on Instagram at Drew Canole, and I'd love to chat. I read all my DMs. I go through it. So I'd love to connect with other growth conscious minded people that are making a big difference in this planet now.
Yes, amazing. Thank you, Drew. Thank you for your energy and your words and for spending this time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. It was amazing. We're in this together.
Yes, we are, all of us, everyone. Thank you, Drew. Have a really beautiful day.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I love how Drew explained how every problem in business is a spiritual problem. This reminds us that every situation we create and every action we choose to make in our lives can come from our spirituality if we are connected and aware. When we are each on our own spiritual journey, it can be challenging to integrate into old patterns and behaviors we may have learned in business. There is also a real gap between intellectually understanding how you want your spirituality to guide your business and truly living this way by always running your business from your most authentic and spiritual place. We can practice this connection by bringing our spiritual practices into our days, not only separate from our business time, as Drew describes with his mantra and reminders that keep him focused throughout the day. We also talked about how we are constantly transforming, which is a universal truth that I don't think we can remind ourselves of often enough. Everything is changing. Our bodies and cells, our mindset, relationships, business, environment. We can easily live with the illusion that everything around us is stable, but when we embrace that everything is always changing, we are able to surrender to the flow of life and accept rather than resist, whilst also taking on the responsibility of evolving in the direction we choose. I enjoyed hearing a bit about Drew's time with his mentor, Wayne Dyer, as well. Wayne Dyer's work really resonates deeply with me too. I love how he teaches that you can't control what goes on outside, but you can control what goes on inside. If you haven't already watched Wayne Dyer's film, The Shift, I highly recommend you do. You can find it on YouTube. You will discover his teachings about moving from ego to the meaning phase of life.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe now. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and short review. If you think people you know might benefit from listening to Going Conscious, please share it with them. I know I get much of my inspiration from podcasts which are shared with me. For all episodes, our library and more, visit goingconscious.com. Your support to spread this positive message of fulfillment and freedom means so much. As well as hosting Going Conscious, I help conscious entrepreneurs to transition and unleash their power and purpose with my transformation coaching and conscious brand consulting work. Discover more on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website, nikkitrott.com. I'd love to hear from you and to talk about your goals, questions, or how we can work together. And if I don't hear from you before then, see you next Wednesday on the next episode of Going Conscious. As always, live your freedom.